We're about to dive into a story that's thousands of years old, but it really gets at a struggle that every single one of us faces. That constant battle going on inside our heads between what we truly believe and what we're absolutely terrified of. And really, this whole story boils down to this one single question. When you find yourself in the middle of your own personal storm and it feels like everything is falling apart, which one is going to win? Is it the strength of your faith or is it the power of your fear? Okay, so let's set the scene. Our story kicks off in a pretty dramatic place. A tiny boat getting tossed around on a stormy sea in the dead of night. And on that boat, a group of absolutely terrified disciples. I mean, try to imagine it. This isn't just a bit of rain and wind. We're talking about a violent, chaotic squall that's throwing their little boat around like a toy. But honestly, the storm raging outside is nothing compared to the one that's raging inside them. Yeah, they're fishermen, they know the sea, but this is different. They feel completely powerless. And that feeling, well, that's the perfect breeding ground for terror.
And right then, at their absolute peak of panic, they see something, a figure, moving toward them on the water. Now, does their mind jump to rescue, to a miracle? Nope. Their first thought, seen through the lens of pure fear, is that they're seeing a ghost, an apparition. Their terror finds something to lock onto, and everything just gets a whole lot worse.
And this is where everything shifts. Through the howling wind, through their own panicked shouts, a single voice cuts right through all that noise. It's Jesus, and his voice is one of total calm, total reassurance. It doesn't magically stop the storm, but it instantly changes the emotional weather inside that boat. Now, in response to this voice, one of them does something pretty extraordinary. It's Peter, always impulsive, always full of passion, and he decides to push the limits of this moment. He makes a bold, almost unbelievable request. Just think about what he's actually asking here. He's not just asking for proof, right? He's asking to participate. He's basically saying, if you're really in control of all this chaos, then let me defy it right alongside you. This is his faith just blossoming into a direct challenge to the reality he's seeing all around him. So what happens next is one of the most famous miracles you've probably ever heard of. But let's look at it for a second, not just as some supernatural event, but as the direct result of Peter's incredible, even if momentary, focus. You can kind of break this down into three crucial steps. First, Peter makes a very specific request. He turns this vague belief into a concrete goal. Second, he gets out of the boat, the only safe thing he knows, which is turning his faith into real action. And third, and this is the most important part, he fixes his gaze on Jesus, the source of that promise. And it works. For a few incredible steps, the guy is literally walking on water. The laws of physics just take a back seat. His focused belief is so powerful that it's holding him up, creating this kind of spiritual buoyancy that pushes back against the storm. But of course, the story doesn't end there, because as we all know, trying to maintain that kind of perfect focus, especially when you're in the middle of a crisis, it's next to impossible. And this is where that classic showdown between faith and fear really comes to a head. This right here, this is the exact moment it all goes wrong. Peter shifts his focus. He takes his eyes off the promise, that voice that said come, and he puts them right back on the problem, the wind, the waves crashing all around him. He stops listening to the promise and starts looking at the chaos. It's a perfect example of what some psychologists call catastrophizing, where our mind just magnifies a threat until it becomes our entire reality. And the second his focus breaks, the miracle is over. Fear rushes back in, doubt completely takes over, and he starts to sink. The very reality he was defying just moments before, it takes back control. His buoyancy is gone. So this brings us to the big takeaway of the story, a concept we can call the buoyancy of belief. It's really all about what holds us up when we feel like we're sinking. And this is the core idea right here. The buoyancy isn't about having zero fear or pretending the storm isn't real. It's the principle that whatever you choose to focus on, that's what determines your outcome. A focused faith, one that's locked onto a promise or a goal, can keep you afloat. But a focus on all the overwhelming problems around you, that will almost certainly pull you under. So let's just nail down the key takeaways. First, faith and fear can exist at the same time. The winner is just the one you decide to focus on. Second, Your reality literally changes depending on where you put your attention. I mean, Peter was in the exact same storm whether he was walking or sinking. The only thing that changed was his focus. Third, rescue is always there. The moment Peter cried out, he was saved. And finally, don't forget about those few steps. Even a tiny moment of powerful faith can be a huge deal. And that really brings us right back to you. We all face storms, right? In our careers, in our relationships, with our health. The wind and the waves are very, very real. But this story leaves us with a critical question we have to ask ourselves in those moments. When you feel like you're starting to sink, where is your focus? Is it on the promise or is it on the problem?